Okay. Hello friends, it's Acoustic Paradiso. I'm Ben and it's very nice to be here, surrounded by all of these. Now, these are the new Epiphone Inspired by Gibson range. Pretty obviously really, because there's some classic models here. It's an interesting thing that Epiphone have started doing. I think it's fairly obvious if you've kept any kind of an eye on the guitar market over the last few years that there's been a real increase in both the kind of popularity, the numbers, and the quality of the kind of high-end acoustic guitars that are coming out of the Far East. And Epiphone have realised, I think, that for a couple of years, there have been some brands who've been doing really quite nice versions of Gibson designs at a fraction of the Gibson price. So Epiphone have come in and they've started doing it themselves, and they're really cool guitars. I'm going to start with this one, which is obviously the J45. Now these guitars have got some things in common, and there's a few differences obviously. So this is the J45. The original J45 was out in 1942. This is pretty close to the original design. It's the slope-shouldered dreadnought. It's got the 25.75 inch scale. This in classic construction, these are all solid woods, all of these guitars, which is great. This has got a Sitka spruce top with mahogany back and sides, a mahogany neck with a laurel fingerboard, and it looks great. I'm going to say it sounds great, but it looks great as well. These have all got the new Epiphone kind of vintage style finish. I can't remember what I don't even know if there is a proper kind of Epiphone name for it, but it gives it the appearance of a slightly aged but not relict guitar, if that makes sense. So it's not quite as shiny as a gloss finish, it's not quite as satiny as your traditional satin finish, and I really like it. The J45 comes in this model, but also in the Cutaway model here, which I'm going to play in a second. The obvious aesthetic difference is the scratch plate. This one's got the more kind of 50s, 60s style scratch plate, whereas the Cutaway's got a slightly more modern shape. But other than that, the woods are all the same, the construction is the same. This guitar retails for $649. If you were to look at the kind of Gibson equivalent, so a Gibson J45, the standard model retails at around £2,300. So it's a big price difference. In terms of electronics, all of these guitars have pickups. They all have the Sonicore pickup with the Sonotone preamp, apart from the J45 Cutaway, which has the Fishman Presys 2 preamp, which has got a few extras. So let's look at that right now. So this is the Cutaway J45. Obviously, it still has the same kind of C profile neck that all of these guitars do actually, but this does have on top here the Fishman Presys 2. So whereas these other guitars just have controls for volume and tone, the Presys has a tuner, it has volume, bass, treble, and a phase switch. So it's just a bit more variable and a bit more flexible when you want to use it for live performance. And as I mentioned before, it's got this slightly different pick guard on it. But they look cool. They both come in this vintage sunburst finish, and you know the quality on these is really great. Actually, I have to say, you know the fretwork is done really nicely. They all have a bone nut, which is a nice touch. They all come as well. I should have mentioned this in the intro with one of these. We were having a bit of an argument. Well, I say an argument, a discussion beforehand about whether these were a feedback buster or a humidifier, and we came to the conclusion that they can probably be used as both. I don't know if you've used a humidifier on your guitar before, but we're getting to the season where you know your central heating comes on, and if you know, like me, you live in a relatively modern house, you don't get much kind of air coming in from outside, so the air can get very dry, and if you keep your acoustic guitar hanging on the wall or something, it can dry out. And I know that when I moved from an old house to a new house, one of my guitars got a crack in the top within a month or two, which was not ideal. So yeah, these come with sound hole humidifiers. So you just unscrew the back, make this spongy bit wet, and then you can pop it back in the sound hole. Hold on, if I can get the back on. There we go. It just sits in the sound hole like this, and it will keep your guitar humidity levels at the right level, which is, depending on the manufacturer, it's, generally between 50 and 60% humidity, if possible. It is worth noting, though, that if you do want to use a humidifier with your guitar, you need to keep it in a sealed environment, so a case, basically, because if you just put this in your guitar and hang it up in your lounge, it's not going to do anything apart from make your lounge slightly more humid. No, these guitars don't actually come with a case, but you can get a hard case from us. I think 60, 70 quid for a hard case, something like that. And if you did want to keep your guitar kind of at optimum humidity, that would be the way to do it. And that is the way that I keep most of my acoustic guitars over the winter when the central heating is on and the windows are all shut. So that's just a little side note, but it's a really nice touch, I think, that they come with those. Yeah, it's a really nice touch. And also, if you take the sponge out, you could almost certainly use it as a feedback buster. So Pete was right too. Brilliant. I'm going to move on now to the next one in the range, which are these Hummingbirds. I didn't mention the price, which is a vast oversight. So the J200 here, the slope shoulder standard non-cutaway, is $649. This is a little bit extra at $699. But that is an all solid guitar that I'm really really impressed by them, actually, I have to say. So let's move on to the Hummingbirds. So this is the Epiphone Inspired by Gibson Hummingbird. This is the Cherry Sunburst, and it is lovely. It's a beast, I've got to say. I really like this one. The Hummingbird is just a wonderful kind of dreadnought style guitar. It's square shouldered, unlike the J45 slope shoulder. But in terms of spec, it's a very similar build. It's a solid Sitka spruce top, solid mahogany back and sides, solid mahogany neck with the laurel fingerboard, the laurel bridge, these cool tuners on the top. This one has got the Sonicor pickup and the Sonicor preamp in it as well, like we were just doing. The Hummingbird, I think, came out in 1960, I believe, and is just one of those guitars that you see in so many pictures from kind of the 60s and 70s. There's a great picture of Emmylou Harris playing one, I think. And I love it. It's got the kind of the engraved detailed pick guard there. It's this finish that they're using, it's the same finish on the J45s, but it's really cool. It's really cool because it looks like it looks aged, but not fake, because it still looks new. I'm not explaining it particularly well, but that's what I'm going for, is that it looks great and it doesn't look all kind of glossy and nasty, but it doesn't have that, not that glossy is nasty, but you know what I mean. I'm digging myself a hole here. I just really like the guitar. It's available in Cherry Sunburst and, the natural finish, which is this side, not that side. One more thing I should mention about the Hummingbird is that it is also going to be available in a 12-string version, which is going to be really cool. Unfortunately, we don't have one here to play, but as I understand, it's going to be exactly the same specs as this, although obviously being a 12-string, it's going to have a slightly wider nut width to accommodate the extra 6 strings. But I'm really looking forward to playing that one. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to do a bit more playing on it. This is the Hummingbird, and it's just so fun. All right. As I mentioned, this one is $749, which is it's a good price for a solid wood guitar. If you were looking at the Gibson equivalent of this one, then you'd be looking at around $3,200. So it's going to be it's an interesting comparison. I think we're probably going to do some kind of comparison videos on them at some point, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So let's move on to the last one, which is the J200. Right, we're on to the big boy of the new range. This is the Epiphone version of the J200, which is another classic design from the late 30s, 37, I believe. The first J200 came out. It's a super jumbo. It is a big body and it is great. I love J200s. To fit with classic J200 construction, this guitar has got the solid Sitka spruce top, but it has this beautiful figured maple back and sides with the middle stripe along, you know, joining the back there with this inlay work. It's got the stripe up the neck, the great tuners. I mean, it's cool, it's maple. I love maple guitars. They can be a bit of a Marmite thing for some people. But for me, I think they are really good. You have to work a bit harder to get some of the volume out of them sometimes, but that's okay. So it's got Laurel fingerboard, same as the rest of the range. This one also has the Sonicore pickup and the Sonitone preamp in it, and it's great. It's worth noting that this has got a 25.5-inch scale length, which is, you know, standard for a J200, but the rest of these are all the kind of shorter 24 and 3/4-inch scale length. The retail on this is that it's the most expensive, and it's available in the sunburst finish and the natural finish. They retail at $799. But if you wanted to buy a Gibson J200, you're looking at least $4,000. I think the J200 standard's about £4,200. So yes, it's the most expensive of this range, but compared to a Gibson, you've got quite a short. Well, there's a big difference, obviously. They're really, really nice guitars. I'm super impressed by these. It's got the same finish again, the same kind of aged finish, which is lovely. And yeah, the J200, well worth checking out. Today is the day that these guitars are being released, and they are all in stock, apart from the 12-string. So they are all available to buy now, and I have a feeling we're going to sell an awful lot of them. So there we go, the new Epiphone Inspired by Gibson range. I think they're really good. I think you should check them out, really. As ever, links are below, more details. Let us know what you think of them in the comments, and don't forget to click like and subscribe. We'll see you next time, and at some point we'll see you with the 12-string version of these. So, take care.